So how has it been serving as Delta State Commissioner for Finance?
When we came on board this second tenure, the terrain was already known by us, so it became a bit easier for us to blend. And Deltans have been very, very supportive because they are happy with the developments and all that His Excellency Senator Dr. Okowa has been able to put together, achieve in the first tenure. Coming to Ministry of Finance, for me in particular, I would say it was not a particularly surprise, but I was shocked in the real sense of it. I will be told that surprise and shock shouldn't go together, but that's exactly what it was for me. A familiar terrain it was, having been in the financial industry for upward of so many years, over 3 decades in the financial world. It became a bit easy for me to actually get myself together with my people. I must state too very categorically that I met a very dedicated staff, be it in the core Ministry of Finance or in the AG's office. I equally also met a united, skilled manpower across the board. So starting the journey was easy for me, and I think we have been able to achieve thus far the best that we needed to do.
Delta State is now the highest oil producing state in Nigeria, which means an improved inflow. How has that improved the financial health of the state?
It's true that Delta State is in the high end of oil producing states in the country. But what is very critical and more critical for me is the fact that I happen to have a governor who, even though he's a medical doctor, has over time, throughout his track record, been able to master the art of financial management. So you find out if you pick up the records of the budgets that have been signed into law since 2015 to date, you find out that they are budgets that were conservatively put together. And that is why the performance level has always been very high in the past 5 years, as it were. He has also been able to put together, I don't know what has happened, but I think Deltans are very happy with him. And so they have been very peaceful. You know, when you have a peaceful environment, then development can take place. And then you can also find a way to hinge up on your internal generated funds. So with peace in Delta State, some companies are beginning to come back, those who left before. I can tell you that the IGR of the state has been on the upward trend in the past 3 years. And we are hoping that we will continue to improve progressively on that. The funds from Abuja have been a bit on the static side. It's not particularly growing because the crude oil level price has also not gone up that much. But because we run a balanced conservative budget, we have been able to achieve all that we intended to achieve. And so far so good. We'll continue to do so. We don't belong to the League of States who would want to throw out budget of 1 trillion naira, as the case might be. This particular 2020 budget is just 395 billion for Delta State. People will wonder, why are we not doing in a trillion mark? But again, we are extremely very conservative because we want to ensure that we run the governance of the day in such a way that when this governor leaves, the debt that will be left behind will be almost insignificant. That's why we are pushing for a balanced budget, and that's why we are doing everything humanly possible to increase the IGR of the state. And so far we are balancing and we are doing well.
It's an established economic principle that one of the ways of improving savings is to plug leakages. What is your administration doing to ensure that what flows out gets measured, is monitored, and is transparent?
Human life, you can never have a perfect situation. There will always be room for improvement. We are doing everything humanly possible because actually in simple accounting principles, if the revenue can go up, then you must bring down costs. So that's one of the particular adages we are following, and we are trying to ensure that little leakages that we'll be able to find out, we are plugging by the day. The leakages are not particularly much, but we need to do better. That is the truth. And like I said, as human beings, we will continue to improve by the day. And so far, so good. We have introduced a few different principles of work that will enable us to get more transparent by the day. We are very mindful that transparency is the watchword now in all the financial world. The World Bank of this world, for instance, would naturally give a grant if your financial transactions are so transparently put together in an audited report, for instance, and also published as and when required within the time period. So we as Deltans, we've been able to pass those tests over time, and we believe that we'll continuously do so to ensure that all those normal accounting standards and financial standards that are required of us by the World Bank, for instance, are put together in such a transparent manner, and of course websited, and so that at any point in time you pull up the website of Delta State, you see the digital accounts there. Now we have just finished closing the 2019 financial transactions of the state, and we are doing everything humanly possible to ensure that the reported accounts will be also hosted in the website before the 31st of March, which is normal deadline. So far we are working very hard around the clock to ensure that we support His Excellency Senator Dr. Okowa to be able to move us from the first tenor of Smart Agenda to the second tenor of Stronger Delta. And we are doing that to the best. Paid the minimum wage salary just yesterday, and in that payment of the minimum wage salary, we domesticated clearly all that was signed into law at the federal level in Abuja, in Delta State. So across the board, all the percentage increases and the consequential adjustments have been done, and salaries paid for January. And the governor was also gracious enough to approve 2 months arrears, and we have actually paid the arrear for November, including alongside the January salary just yesterday. So thus far, I think we have been able to satisfy labor, and we will seize this opportunity to crave the indulgence of labor to also, on their own part, try to increase and improve on their productivity.
Sir, talking about minimum wage, as a state, what is the financial implication as regards the new minimum wage in the state?
In real terms, being very specific, the total additional volume or value of the salary package in Delta State is about 742 million every month. That's what it is. 742 million. That's what it is, additional pay. We know that is a tall order for us, but we believe that as we struggle to improve on the IGR of the state, as we also begin to reap the benefits of the increase in the VAT from 5% to 7.5%, we will associate that we will have been able to take the sustenance into consideration. I must also say that we had actually built this increment into the budget for 2020. So in terms of sustenance, we are good to go.
Sir, thank you very much. There's this cry, or I don't know how to call it, from some angles that allowances of some professional bodies, persons, or some persons in special offices, maybe like government hours or SSG of office, that are supposed to be paid as a special duties allowance, that those allowances are not covered in the new minimum wage chart of the state. How true is this, sir?
No, there's what you call statutory allowances and non-statutory allowances. The statutory allowances were completely covered across board. There are some of the non-statutory allowances that has not been covered, and they are specific to certain sectors. For instance, call duty allowance of a medical doctor. Recall that His Excellency Senator Dr. Okowa is a medical doctor. He decides what he has to pay, and he has that right, discretionary authority, to either increase call duty allowance or to reduce it. But for those ones that are statutory, we have across the board maintained it, and it's contained in the salary that was paid just yesterday.
Does it mean the state is entitled with the federal government as regards the...
I just said so a while ago. What we have done is to fully domesticate what we have in the federal level, in the state level. The truth of the matter is that even before this increment came into play, Delta State, as we speak today, remains one of the highest civil servant paying states in Nigeria. And you can check that out. That is the truth.
Sir, considering the percentage of Delta State civil service, which by my estimation is less than 10%, what is the state government doing to ensure that the bigger percentage who are not in the payroll of the state government directly are not left behind in this windfall?
In fact, the essence of it, if you are looking at civil service as a percentage of the total population of Deltans, they are clearly not up to 1% of the people. That is the truth. And so that's why we keep saying that as we try to satisfy civil servants, we cannot do away with them because their functions are also very important to state governance, so we can't do away with them. But that's why we keep saying that they also have to improve their productivity so that we can both together, jointly, ensure that the other 99% of Deltans also derive the dividends of democracy. How would they derive it? They would derive it, for instance, by improvement in healthcare delivery to the people of the state, which you know that His Excellency Dr. Okowa has done so well, particularly with the introduction of the contributive health insurance scheme. That has actually been so amazing across board. And then, of course, we are still maintaining that education must be free at primary levels. We are maintaining and ensuring that that does happen. So the cost of education actually in public schools in Delta States are extremely very low. And the government is also doing so much to ensure that roads are tarred, and so it's easier for you to travel along Delta roads now. For those farmers who try to also move their wares from hinterland to the mainland for market, it's also easier for them now. So a lot of infrastructural development is taking place in Delta State, which is why we are saying we are moving from the smart Delta to a stronger Delta. And I'm sure that in the next 2 years, you begin to see very important legacy projects which will be churned out by this administration. We are mindful that the 99% who are not civil servants also smile with us when they see us.
Finally, before I let you go, sir, considering your busy schedule, minimum wage and arrears evokes an understandable sentiment within the market and the economy. As a financial expert, what is your advice to Delta civil servants and the market operators?
I think that the space of discussion between Labour and the federal government before this minimum wage agreement was reached was such a very long time that I do not expect that there will be reciprocal increases across board. And because, again, arrears are not particularly paid, I do not believe that the civil servants have too much money now to spend and begin to move around and begin to pack all products from the market. And so when the market people begin to see that it's not particularly the kind of arrears that you get before that will begin to double the demand, they will also begin to understand that they have to ensure that the prices are stable across board. That's my wish. I seize the opportunity to tell all Deltans who are in a position of supplying one service or one product or the other to try and maintain price stability, because that is the only way we'll be able to curb inflation, and that is the only way that we'll have peace in our state, and that's the only way we can also give opportunity for governance to improve on further infrastructural development in our space.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.